Hello, spring training, and it's 2020, 2021. Hello, snowstorm. Ari, it just had to be that way, didn't it? I mean, isn't that the time in which we live?
Yeah, and I'm here in Chicago, and we got like well over a foot of snow. And if another snowstorm hits, it'll be the most in the winter in 75 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That goes back then to the back-to-back blizzards in the late 70s. Wow. Oh, that's a lot. Well, let's
yeah.
introduce ourselves. Hi, and welcome to Double AI, the podcast on analytics and sports. I'm Phil in balmy and sunny and 70 California. And Ari is in Chicago where it's not so sunny and 70 and balmy. But Ari, you lived out here before, so you have memories of what it's like to be sunny and 70 this time of the year.
Yeah, I miss it. I lived in LA and Pasadena when I went to Caltech, and then San Diego working for the Padres, and then up in the Bay Area. I spent some time in high school at Stanford, and then worked at Oracle and started some venture-funded company. Got funded by Sandhill Road, so spent a bunch of time up there as well.
Yeah. So, given all of that, spring training's underway, and a large part of the nation is buried under a foot of snow. But given the way things have unfolded the last month or two, who can we blame for this weather? Who's in charge of this? Is it Tony Clark or is it Rob Manfred?
I can speak from experience that there's no space laser, and uh, so could be one of them. But yeah,
Oh, all right. Well, let's start talking about baseball because, I mean, first the seriousness. We really got to start with COVID protocol will impact the first day, and it's already impacted the beginning of spring training and will be something all the way through. That's number one. COVID protocol, very serious aspect of the big league season. But we also have some interesting things to discuss as gates open for the start of spring training, and that's the New York Mets and people betting on the Mets have overwhelmed a lot of off-season projections for the season. You know, we could ask the question, could you ever bet against the Dodgers to repeat? And the answer is overwhelmingly, a bunch of people already have.
hmm yeah. So it's interesting, and I've been doing my own projections, and early this stage, it's kind of hard without even knowing the full rosters. But today's catchers and pitchers report to spring training, so why not now as ever? Just anecdotally, looking across the league, the Dodgers have just been incredible last year, as well as some of the additions they recently made. So, I would favor them to repeat, although, small postseason sample size, there are other great teams. And looking, I'm just looking at DraftKings now. As of last week, their odds were the Dodgers the most, then the Yankees, Padres, White Sox, Braves, and then the Mets, which we were talking about. So they have the Dodgers as 3 times as likely as the Mets. So there's a way to bet against that on that site. The odds might be in your favor.
Well, all right, you shared this with me this weekend. And BetMGM has what I thought was incredibly newsworthy about how the Mets have received more than twice as many bets, that's both in terms of overall handle and number of tickets, than any other team to win the World Series. That's according to BetMGM. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's remarkable. The amount of money being spent as well, and the involvement in the entertainment industry and MGM specifically. Interestingly, I was also looking that the DraftKings, have like the Pirates and the Royals coming in last, but I saw one other, I believe it was MLB, and they had the Orioles at a 0.0% chance of the World Series. Having worked for them, don't like saying that. I wish the best for the fan base and the organization, but I found that kind of interesting as well.
Yeah, it is 0.0%. Now, let's dig into the Mets and the numbers. And then we're going to talk about teams. The Mets are responsible for 1 out of every 4 tickets and 30% of the overall handle financially. Um, I'm not sure what's driving that. The Yankees and Padres were the next highest teams in terms of tickets or betting receipts, while the Yankees and Dodgers were next highest in terms of handle. But think of that. Right now, some wise guys are going all in on the Mets.
Hmm.
I tend to not look just at where teams start, but who has room to do things as the season unfolds. And maybe the Mets with new ownership, and they still have room to acquire. Maybe they'll be the most active team. But all right, how in the world do you bet against the Dodgers repeating, given that they've added Trevor Bauer?
Yeah, you summed it up really well. That they have the wealthiest owner in sports, the Mets do, so they could adjust along the way. However, a lot of the superstar impact players, are already under contract. They're not free agents. It's going to be hard to trade, except maybe late in the season. Um, so that that's one thing, is that there's payroll flexibility with the Mets. But yeah, the Dodgers, are like leading the race. So it's going to be hard to figure out how to catch up. The other thing is, I grew up in New Jersey, uh, consulted with the Mets and the Yankees. And yeah, the media there, people just get very excited. And my son and I are joking that, there's a player, that would be with the Orioles and nobody hears of him. He joins the Yankees and suddenly the best player at that position, um, even though they're actually just the same player. So there could be just a lot of exuberance, um, which if you're into betting, you might be able to use for your advantage.
So Ari, line them up for me. Here are the Mets, and here are the Dodgers, and who's in between? In what order? Padres, Braves, and where do the Rays and Yankees fit in there?
Yeah, so the Yankees are like top three. It's like Dodgers, Yankees, Padres. The White Sox are like did a really good job in the last off season. So they're right up there. And the Braves, they have such a young core and some great veterans on top of it. And then the Mets after that. So according to DraftKings, then it goes Oakland, which is interesting given some of their key players are injured, Chapman and so on. The Twins, the Cardinals, and then the Rays, and then Reds, Astros, Blue Jays, Nationals, and goes down from there.
Well, that'll be fun to watch all the way through, and you and I learn over and over again. It's not where you start; it's the additions you make along the way. Teams play 45 games or a month and a half in the season, and then they go ahead and recalibrate and look at what they need to add to keep pace within the division. And that's the game these days. It's what you do along the process. I think Dan O'Dowd on MLB Network has a saying is, you're not a big market team or a big money team unless you have the room to make big market, big money deals as the season unfolds. And that's those decisions often make a difference when you get into the last 45 days, last 30 days of the regular season, and then into the playoffs. All right, snowstorm, spring training. Mets are attracting a lot of attention at the sports betting take. Dodgers are clearly the favorite. The other big issue as we start spring training is this season there'll be a great deal of posturing with regard to the upcoming collective bargaining agreement between owners and the union. When do talks get serious and when do they get settled?
This is a big concern that I have. Um, Sometimes they get serious after they get settled, but no, I think it's going to be contentious. There's so many different things in play. There were minor league operations is a big contention. It's gone through a lot of change. Of course, the COVID. Um, I'm an optimist, so I think the world will get out of it. Certainly by next spring training. But fans coming back, money spent, people are permanently changing from baseball to some of the other sports. Length of game, rules, the DH. But salary caps or luxury sharing. There's so many contentious points um, in there that it's going to be a big challenge. The gaps are very wide, and I worry about number one, a strike, or number two, just bad PR that we saw last time that
Yeah,
alienates some of the core fans.
yeah, well
That's what
said.
I'm worried about.
Yeah, and that's something you and I will keep an eye on throughout the season. All right. We talked about how the Mets are attracting a great deal of attention from sports bettors, but sports betting not slowing down at all, continuing to gain speed, and the pandemic has certainly been an asset or a primary factor there. But all right, if we look at what's happened over the last 3 to 4 months, the state of Illinois, your hometown, your home state, land of Lincoln, is leading the pack from the last 2 months of 2020 and the first 2 months of 2021.
Yeah, exactly. Just in December, $500 million take, $500 million spent. And for the entire last year, about $2 billion. And like, mind you, we don't really have the infrastructure like a Atlantic City or Vegas.
Right.
And Illinois is still new to legal sports betting. Um, we have native, American and river casinos, but nothing major for infrastructure. So $1.9 billion in wagers for 2020. That's 125 million in taxable revenue. So that helps out in their state, which has a lot of financial challenges lately. And then $20.2 million in state and local taxes. So Illinois is now joining Pennsylvania, Nevada, New Jersey with pretty strong starts to this year because of the Super Bowl, and then the anticipation about the upcoming March Madness.
Well, if Andrew was with us, and we miss you, Andrew, he's busy, and Andrew's helping lead the launch of a new venture-backed startup company, Rasco, and we wish them all success. They really are very focused right now. But if Andrew was with us, he would recall the impact of no March Madness last year, as he helped us understand that both immediately through the month of March and April, and what that meant to the sports betting industry, and then what it meant throughout. That had great impact. So to have it back, and to have it in Indianapolis, not far from border state, Indiana border state to Illinois, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. We know that'll be big in the state of New Jersey as well, Nevada. That'll be a big deal, and that's something we'll keep our eye on. And that is the next big thing now that the Super Bowl is behind us and spring training is underway.
Yeah, and last time I was in Indianapolis, I took my son out to the March Madness finals, which was exciting. Although the drive home was foggy, there's like a plane crash of some other athletic program. And the drive home, I think, was like 8 hours on something that usually takes 3. So I got a little sleepy, had to get a hotel. But yeah, it was incredible to witness, and good for the state of Indiana to have that there.
Yeah, so we look forward to that. Well, we'll take a basketball tip and just a couple of notes before we close out. NBA, this cracks me up. This is not newsworthy, but it's funny. NBA officials are warning LeBron about flopping.
Mm-hmm.
He moved from Cleveland to LA to act. He's an actor. What do you expect? He learned acting well here in Hollywood. This is funny. This is how it was described by Associated Press. With no or light contact, James threw his arms into the air and drew a foul Friday in a game against Memphis. He got the whistle, and the Memphis bench erupted. We didn't even touch him. So after a first-time warning, a player's fined $5,000 for a second offense, and LeBron got his first-time warning. But, I mean, what do you expect? He's got the film Space Jam 2 coming up. It's scheduled for release in July. You can go on YouTube now and watch the trailer. LeBron, hooray for Hollywood, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting to see these rule changes, based on player behavior, and Shaquille O'Neal standing under the basket, just kind of dunking it. yeah, and like the game changes around some of the players.
Well, LeBron has learned well from the game's forefathers. Magic was an enormous flopper, or when something would happen, he was so animated, he'd always get the call. And it's good to see that. I think that diminishes the product. We'll put it. Let's go on to NASCAR. Their Super Bowl is at the start of the season, not at the end. The Daytona 500 and 100-1 underdog Michael McDowell won the slam bang last lap finish. Uh, Racing is embracing sports betting, but no bets claimed on this long shots victory. So apparently, no one put a dime down on McDowell. That would have been 100-1 odds. Wow! And he won for the first time in 358 uh, Cup starts. All right. The business of home fitness. All right, take us through some news there.
Yeah, so in the pandemic, home fitness super hot. You know, people don't necessarily want to go to the gym. Here in Chicago, you don't want to brave the snow. In Dallas, you don't want to brave the black ice. So people have been doing this trend towards home-based workout and instruction. Peloton been in the news tremendously. Apple Fitness Plus and Lululemon Mirror. So, a little bit of all of them. Peloton, the leader in the bicycle. They also have a competitor, Echelon, raised over $1 billion. They issued convertible notes for acquisitions and improving their supply chain. And supply chain is addressing where they can't make these fast enough. People are buying it quicker than they could distribute it, which is in a way a good problem to have. But so they're doing phenomenally well. And you can have home-based like virtual classes, competing with friends, competing with strangers. Apple Fitness Plus doing extremely well. Lululemon, who's known for athletic wear and high class apparel, acquired a company called Mirror in June 2020 for $500 million, and it's doing tremendously well. So the Mirror is like this giant screen, about $1,500, and you can have private lessons from the comfort of your own home or group exercises, yoga, stretching, jumping jacks, things like that. And so those three doing incredibly well. And also, Phil and I are seeing trends with coaching over the iPhone, like a baseball player, a high schooler, a little leaguer can just have a camera set up, and you don't have to fly to Florida or to wherever your specialist is. They could remotely watch you and give you pointers, and that business is doing quite well in addition.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see as pandemic home hibernation starts to release its grip, see what kind of effect that'll have on the home fitness industry. But boy, what a boom. And being aggressive was certainly the right thing to do throughout 2020 in that industry. Well, Ari, let's look over your shoulder before we say goodbye. You have, that's the logo for Spring Training 2021, the Grapefruit League in Florida, and the Cactus League in Phoenix, Arizona. Let's see, the weather today, it's I've talked to friends in both areas, and although most of the country's under snow, they can get out and work out. Beautiful weather today in Phoenix. Let's see where you are in the Midwest. It's about what, 15 degrees today? Is that right?
Yeah, I haven't been out in a few days, but yeah, it's been down to about 0 to 1. The joke is there's no temperature here when it's 0. The temperature doesn't exist. But yeah, it's going up to the teens.
And I'm looking at the forecast in Phoenix, and sunny and 66 today, and sunny and 80 by the end of the weekend. So
Wow.
spring training's here. It's underway. We'd expect no less from the Cactus League. That city does such a phenomenal job, and last year shutting down spring training damaged the economy there. It'll be interesting to see about the rebound in the state of Florida as well. Well, Ari, good conversation today. Baseball season is underway, and that's for both of us. That's the home court, the home field. We're all excited about it. Thanks for taking a few minutes to hang out with us today, Ari. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you. Great Great to see you again.
And we're going to also say we look forward to having Andrew back with us next week, and you too. Thanks for joining us here on Double AI, the podcast about analytics. We will see you next week.